We need a Secretary of Defense.
Okay, what job is that?
Just the guy who's in charge of the most powerful military in the history of the world.
Oh, right. Put in that Fox News guy.
No, this guy runs the military, like the army. Sounds like a job for me, Pete Hegseth, or as I'm now known, that Fox News guy. Okay, what are your qualifications? I was a host on Fox News, I don't think women should be in combat, and I have a lot of weird extremist tattoos. Okay, will cause World War III, an attorney general.
Matt Gaetz.
This is the chief law enforcement officer of the United States and head of the Department of Justice. Well, I think I'm perfect for the job. What law experience do you have? Does being investigated for sex trafficking and pedophilia count? I guess it's enough. Also, if the DOJ is within 100 yards of a school, I'm gonna have to work from home. Health and Human Services. That's on me. Right. Vaccines give kids autism and make frogs gay. Don't you have a worm in your brain? It died, but I'm gonna make food healthier. Well, that's great. What's the plan for that? I don't have a plan, but red food coloring's out. Awesome. Anyone else grossly unqualified to run the country?
The only qualification they need is to bow down to Trump.
I'm gonna be sick.
And Elon Musk, Department of Government Efficiency.
What the hell is that? It's a made-up position? And what do? Well, you know the way I fucked up Twitter? Yeah. I'm going to do that to America.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Conversations with Taz. Hi, pup. Now, we know we're gearing up to be a shit show once again on the global stage. So we got to laugh our way through it and get through and debunk what Trump can do and what he can't do. What he can do and what he cannot do, I should say. But we're also going to remind you of some history. And since the right keeps talking about the founding fathers and their plight for forced birth, let's take a look at one of the founding fathers and their stance on abortion.
Do you know Ben Franklin, founding father of America, was pro-choice? The same man who helped draft both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution made sure to include a recipe for abortion in his widely circulated math textbook. The textbook was called the American Instructor. It was one of the primary educational resources at the time. Franklin himself was a champion of education, particularly for women, unlike many modern politicians. The recipe shown here includes Highland flag and pennyroyal, and simply refers to the unwanted pregnancy as a misfortune. So when Justice Alito claims that the right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions, that's absolute bullshit. The right to choice is deeply rooted in all of humanity's histories and traditions. The use of abortifacient and contraceptive herbs goes back as far as documentation itself. We have a right to privacy, we have a right to choice, and to say otherwise is not pro-life, it's forced birth. Full stop.
And just to add injury to insult to their argument, there's also a recipe for abortion within their handy-dandy Sky Daddy handbook. Who's going to tell them after I've told them 100 times? Oh, shucks. But also, on the heels of this election, there's certain communities, certain cloutivists, because they're not really activists, that are issuing stark warnings and having a little bit of buyer's remorse. Let's take a look.
Let this be a warning to all politicians. There is a new day and age in American politics. Standing with the Zionist regime no longer guarantees your victory. This is the first time a politician, a sitting politician, backed Israel and lost because of their backing of the occupation. We did that. You did that to yourself. You chose to support genocide, and we told you guys months ago, I said, we will do everything in our power to make sure you lose. And what did God do? He put us, we are in all the swing states. At the end of the day, the swing states choose the election. We have 330 million people in this country, and only the swing states really choose the elections, and they're the only votes that really matters. And you guys built the system. All backfires. So remember that in the future. Respect our voice, respect our people, or we will remove you from power. And this is just one step in building the power. We will become the power.
We are feeling a whole range of emotions as we process Trump's victory. Donald Trump is playing our communities, is playing American voters, is playing the Arab and Muslim community. And it is failed democratic leadership that is allowing him to do that. I mean, the folks who voted for Trump are not theoretical to me. The folks who voted for Trump are my cousins, my friends, people who were tasked with a very difficult task of carrying a lot of grief and trying to do a politically savvy thing at the same time.
Well, no surprise that Dearborn Heights, and city of Hamtramck voted all for President Trump. I think that there were a clear indication that this community was truly upset, angry at the Biden-Harris administration.
The Democrats are not responsible for the fan base, aka the voter base, and the sycophants of Donald Trump. They're not. The people who choose to vote against their best interest because Donald Trump is a fervent representation of their confirmation bias are to blame. And to go on and say your cousins, your sphere voted for them while then trying to push off the blame is ridiculous. And to say, oh, we taught you a lesson. What lesson did you teach anyone? You allowed someone to get into office that has already been making moves and plans to develop real estate where your people should be living peacefully. And additionally, I need people to at least scratch the surface of international politics. Learn about treaties. Coming from state.gov, U.S. security cooperation with Israel. Steadfast support for Israel's security has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy for every U.S. administration since the presidency of Harry S. Truman. Since its founding in 1948, the United States has provided Israel with over $130 billion in bilateral assistance focused on addressing new and complex security threats, bridging Israel's capability gaps through security assistance and cooperation, increasing interoperability through joint exercises, and helping Israel maintain its qualitative military edge, the QME. This assistance has helped transform the Israel Defense Forces into one of the world's most capable, effective militaries and turned the Israeli military industry and technology sector into one of the largest exporters of military capabilities worldwide. Since 1983, the United States and Israel have met regularly via the Joint Political Military Group, JPMG, to promote shared policies, address common threats and concerns, and identify new areas for security cooperation. The 48th JPMG, held in October 2022, reaffirmed the ironclad strategic partnership between the United States and Israel, underscoring a mutual commitment to advance collaboration in support of regional security and reinforce the historic achievements of recent normalization under the Abraham Accords. We're going to continue, but I bring this up because to blame just the current administration, to blame a vice president, to blame certain people for something that's been ongoing, because so many people are up in arms regarding October 7th, but not what happened April of the same year, when Palestinian people were under attack. Israel is the leading global recipient of Title 22 U.S. security assistance under the Foreign Military Financing FMF program. This has been formalized by a 10-year 2019 to 2028 Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU. This is why I say it's important to know how things work and know what's currently in effect and what can be done, what workarounds are in place as things are happening. Consistent with the MOU, the United States annually provides $3.3 billion in FMF and $500 million for cooperative programs for missile defense. Since FY 2009, the United States has provided Israel with $3.4 billion in funding for missile defense, including $1.3 billion for Iron Dome support starting in fiscal year 2011. Through FMF, the United States provides Israel with access to some of the most advanced military equipment in the world, including the F-35 Lightning. Israel is eligible for cash flow financing and is authorized to use its annual FMF allocation to procure defense articles, services, and training through the Foreign Military Sales (FMS) system. Direct commercial contract agreements, which are FMF funded direct commercial sales procurements, and through offshore procurement (OSP). Via OSP, the current MOU allows Israel to spend a portion of its FMF on Israeli origin rather than U.S. origin defense articles. This was 25% of the fiscal year 2019, but is set to phase out and decrease to zero in fiscal year 2028. So outside of calling for a ceasefire, what was Harris supposed to do? Quickly. I mean, we have more to go through, but quickly. And what was taught? What was taught to either of the major parties? Because nothing was taught to the lesser parties of the United States, because there are political parties that exist that have prominence and dominance in regions throughout the United States that don't put forth presidential candidates because they know they don't have congressional candidates at this moment. But outside of calling for a ceasefire, what was going to happen? And given the deep-seated, deep-rooted ties between the United States and its little brother, Israel, what more could be said publicly that would not land somebody on the receiving end of an international warrant or sanctions? Quickly. Since you know so much, even though you never went and got your degrees. Let's continue. As of October 2023, the United States has 599 active foreign military sales (FMS) cases valued at $23.8 billion with Israel. FMS cases notified to Congress are listed. Priority initiatives include F-35 Joint Strike Fighter aircraft, CH-53K heavy lift helicopters, KC-46A aerial refueling tankers, and precision-guided munitions. From fiscal year 2018 through fiscal year 2022, the U.S. has also authorized the permanent export of over $12.2 billion in defense articles to Israel via the Direct Commercial Sales DCS process. The top categories of DCS to Israel were gas turbine engines and associated equipment, launch vehicles, guided missiles, ballistic missiles, rockets, torpedoes, bombs, and mines and aircrafts. Sounds like from the beginning, Israel was already planning a genocide. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Because why keep demanding so much money for military grade equipment if everybody's living so cooperatively? And if you are God's chosen people in God's chosen place for God's chosen people, why aren't more people in agreement? And for those of y'all that didn't see the series regarding the history of that, it's on this page. It's on this profile. Why were there multiple locations listed? Why were there multiple locations thrown out? Doesn't seem like the call was coming from God. It seems like the call was coming from inside the house. The call was coming from whatever you could get as quickly as you could get it. But I guess we're not going to, once again, learn from the mistakes of the United States, aka Liberia. Google is free. Since 1992, the United States has provided Israel with $6.6 billion worth of equipment under the Excess Defense Articles Program. The fact that you call it excess, I have a problem with that, but we're going to keep going. Including weapons, spare parts, weapons, and simulators. Yes, they said weapons twice. Like I said, this is on state.gov. You can look it up for yourself. U.S. European Command also maintains in Israel the U.S. War Reserve stockpile, which can be used to boost Israeli defenses in the case of a significant military emergency. Who the fuck is going? You know what? Isn't it amazing that people need so much artillery to fight against people who don't have a legitimate, organized, sanctioned, globally recognized, and or respected military? Y'all don't hear me though. In addition to security assistance and arms sales, the United States participates in a variety of exchanges with Israel, including military exercises like Juniper Oak and Juniper Falcon, as well as joint research and weapons development. So these are already precedent. These are already. So what was a presidential candidate supposed to do? Looks like the only one with leeway is the one that still refuses to sign an ethics commitment to not have conflict of interest and will benefit from a genocide in Gaza. The United States and Israel have signed multiple bilateral defense cooperation agreements to include a Mutual Defense Assistance Agreement, 1952. Oh, that's not 2024. That's not 2023. That's not 2022, 2021, or 2020. So what the fuck was the current administration supposed to do? What was a person participating in the race to POTUS Mountain supposed to do? Oh, okay, let's keep going. A General Security of Information Agreement, 1982. That don't sound like 2024 either. Do it sound like 2023 to y'all? I don't think so. That's 1982. Who was president during that time? And who was in Congress? Who was up on Capitol Hill at that time? A Mutual Logistics Support Agreement, 1991. Again, not 2020. Shit. It looks like the hands been tied for a while. So all somebody can do now is to sit down with BB from Philly and remind him, bitch, you supposed to be on trial. Maybe don't commit more war crimes. And don't go down in history like Mussolini or Hitler. And a Status Enforcement Agreement, 1994. That sounds close to 2024. It got a 4 in its name. But I don't think it's 2024's baby. It just, you kind of sort of in a way named it after 2024. You threw that 4 in there, like people like to throw junior in the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th in there, but I don't think that belonged to 2024. Since 2011, Let me repeat. Since 2011, the United States has also invested more than $8 million in conventional weapons destruction programs in the West Bank to improve regional and human security through the survey and clearance of undisputed minefields. I don't think that's human security if you're calling it conventional weapons. But okay. Following years of negotiations with the Palestinians and Israelis, humanitarian mine action activities began in April 2014. This represents the first humanitarian clearance of landmine contamination in nearly 5 decades. So you was just going to let the Palestinian people just walk and so you could say you didn't know? But Hamas is the problem, right? Hamas is the problem, right? And the presidential candidate, Kurt, is the okay. Israel has been designated as a U.S. major non-NATO ally under U.S. law. Let me repeat, since some of y'all don't get it. Israel has been designated as a U.S. major non-NATO ally under U.S. law. Do y'all know how laws get changed? Cliff Note version, it's not because a candidate or a vice president goes, change the law. This status provides foreign partners with certain benefits in the areas of defense, trade, and security cooperation, and is a powerful symbol of their close relationship with the United States. Consistent with statutory requirements, it is the policy of the United States to help Israel preserve its QME or its ability to counter and defeat any credible, conventional military threat from any individual state or possible coalition of states or from non-state actors, Hamas, while sustaining minimal damages and casualties. I don't feel like they're sustaining minimal casualties and damages. So that would be when the World Court and the UN would step in. But y'all not contacting the UN or the World Court. And if you want more information on the World Court, of course, I have a breakdown on that here as well. But you want to put it all on the president of the United States. Because when y'all travel outside the United States, you act like the rules and regulations and the Constitution of the United States apply to all these other countries. And you get the nerve to want to talk to the manager of everybody around. Like that's going to do something. But I digress. This requires a quadrennial report to Congress for arms transfers that are required to be congressionally notified, and a determination that individual arms transfers to the region will not adversely affect Israel's QME. So y'all making all this noise about Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, but you didn't do shit about the people who can actually make a change. Because y'all stockpile fucking Capitol Hill with a bunch of Zionists. With a bunch of Zionists that have no problem wiping Palestinians off the map. I am waiting for the Red Scare 2.0 to happen. I am waiting for the new McCarthy to come in. And I'm not talking about former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. I am talking about McCarthy of McCarthyism. Because the one thing that the United States is good for is Groundhog Daying history. Because you don't want to learn shit. Less than a minute worth of a Google search to find that. But now y'all want to Google what is a tariff and how to change your vote. You can't, boo-boo. You fucked around. Unfortunately, all of us have to watch you find out when we already know. But we have to suffer the consequences of the find out phase. Okay. That's fun. That's always fun. That's always just a freaking hoot. Because, that's what we like to do. But in response to this, women are finally waking up to things that I have said and other people all over the World Wide Web have said. Y'all don't really know what a trad wife truly is. Y'all don't know what a traditional wife really did. But there's a new form of protest that's showing that some ladies are waking up. And they're discovering Aqua Tofana all over again.
Women are using an old metaphor about poisoning their husbands in protest of Trump's election. The recent online trend, Make Aqua Tofana Great Again, or MATGA, is a movement where some women are jokingly advocating for reviving Aqua Tofana, a poison used in the 17th century by women to kill their abusive husbands. The MATGA trend has emerged as a satirical expression of frustration over certain political issues, mainly targeting Trump and men who support him.
You still want you a good trad wife? Because there's a reason why family plots, family cemeteries used to be in the side yard, the backyard, the front yard. While some of y'all didn't know till 23andMe and Ancestry.com that the man that you met as Papa was Mama's third husband, twice removed. But if you're going to roll back the hands of time, roll back all the rules. Roll back if I move to another county for 30 days, that's an automatic divorce. Fucking no fault, at fault, whatever. And see, the men was trying to use that in their favor. Go back to you can beat the fuck out of your spouse on the courtroom steps. Because, baby, I'll drive you to the courthouse and whoop your ass. Bring back all of our cooking utensils, our cast iron. If you know, you know. Now, you also know that Nick Fuentes was so proud of himself for going viral recently. He's still kind of proud and kind of regretful. Like, of course. But let's take a look. Let's revel in his pain.
So I am now going viral on TikTok, Twitter, Google search trends for my very funny clip on my election night stream. In a moment of exuberance and jubilation, I excitedly declared that since Donald Trump became the president, women's bodies are now under our control. And I mean that. I said it's their body, but it is our choice. And politically, I'm obsessed with controlling women's bodies. I'm going to tell them what they're allowed to do with them. It's my decision. We as males, we as men control their bodies. They have no say in the matter, and that comes to abortion as well as every other issue. Henceforth, men will be controlling what you eat, what you wear, whether you can have an abortion, what your hair looks like, when and whether you can cut your hair. We'll be controlling how much makeup you wear, what you do with your nails. We'll be controlling who you have sex with. We'll be controlling where you live and where you go, what time you go to bed. We're going to be controlling all of that. And this is subject to the law according to Project 2025.
When you start receiving death threats to the extent that I have, it just becomes a liability to my brand, to my academic success and everything else when you do have to worry about people ganging up on you or whatever. It's disturbing to me the level of hate that people have been able to express and been able to feel against someone they've never met, never saw, never had a conversation with. They say that we're the hateful ones, we're the bigots, and I get messages all day long from people I've never met telling me what a terrible person I am. There's no hate on this side. I hate no one. I would never do anything like that. And so I think it's a little bit upsetting that the political climate is the way it is.
Are you sensing a pattern? How we're supposed to forget the hate that they give towards people they don't know, people they've never spoken to, the targets that they consistently put on people's backs, how they laugh at people being doxxed, people being physically harmed, people being stalked, etc. But then turn around, I would never do that. They are masters of microaggressions and macroaggressions. Because have you noticed how they'll come to each other's defense? They're like, well, perfect example, the woman who started the whole lie on TikTok about Harris supporters coming for Southern women. That's code for Black women coming for white women, because we know conservatism isn't contained to a certain region. And people are like, well, she didn't say Black. You're crazy. We know what the fuck a microaggression is. We know what a dog whistle is. But you think by loudly saying despicable shit, we're going to be free of consequences? Baby. Now, some people are a little confused. Nick Fuentes has a Mexican father. Some people thought that he was Cuban because of the things that he was spewing out. But I want to remind you all of an Axios article from March 12th of 2022. And it's really pertinent here. It's entitled, "The Rise of White Nationalist Hispanics." Nick Fuentes, identified as a white supremacist in Justice Department filings, made headlines last week for hosting a white nationalist conference in Florida. His father is also half Mexican American. Wait, hold on. My math is off. I'm sorry. So you're a quarter Mexican. That's why you so cool with being a white Okay, all right. Okay. The big picture. Fuentes is part of a small but increasingly visible number of far-right provocateurs with Hispanic backgrounds who spread racist, anti-Semitic messages. Driving the news, Cuban-American Enrique Tarrio, the former leader of the Proud Boys, a group the Anti-Defamation League calls an extremist group with a violent agenda, was arrested Tuesday and charged with conspiracy in connection to the January 6th Capitol riot. What they're saying: experts tell Axios far-right extremism within the Latino community stems from 3 sources. Hispanic Americans who identify as white, because Hispanic is an ethnicity and not a race. So stop trying to hide behind that, going, I'm a person of color. No, you can be void of color and still be Hispanic. Just like you can be Black and be Hispanic. There are even people who fall into the category of Hispanic and Asian. The spread of online misinformation, aka flat out lies, and lingering anti-Black, anti-Semitic views among U.S. Latinos that are rarely openly discussed. I'm going to add another caveat. And I'm adding this caveat after listening to a lot of Latinos, a lot of Hispanic individuals talk about this. The fact that white adjacency and colorism is so rampant that the biggest threat to Latinos is Latinos. That there are Latinos and Hispanics that are like, oh, once they make it, they're not pulling anybody else up. They're cutting you off. You are beneath them. And like I said, this is from listening to people from those communities. So let's keep that in mind. Brian Levin, director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at Cal State University, said in an interview that the trend is part of the mutation that takes place as the racist fringe tries to become more mainstream. They've always been mainstream, so let's stop saying trying to become mainstream. They've always been mainstream. It's just they want white supremacy always is looking for new foot soldiers. This is why the tenets of white supremacy is applied to each new target, whether the target is based on gender, sexuality, race, social class. They use the same damn talking points. Racism is deeply rooted in Latin American and Caribbean nations where slavery was common. Tanya K. Hernandez, a Fordham University law professor and author of the upcoming book, Racial Innocence: Unmasking Latino Anti-Blackness Bias, told Axios. In Latin America, white supremacy is alive and well. Yes, because the closer you are to the complexion for protection, they're willing to protect you. You see it a lot in South Africa as well. If you think of the recording artist Tyla and how she deals with African Americans while trying to make money off of African Americans. Because where she's from, the closer you are, the closer your adjacency is to the complexion for protection, the better you're treated, because they know it's easier to recruit you as a foot soldier for white supremacy if they give you a little bit of privileges. That's why there's a difference between a house and a field. Even families who have been in the U.S. for generations can often bring those biases with them. They often do. Between the lines, the U.S. trend fueled over the course of Donald Trump's presidency and the pandemic extends beyond movement leaders to a broader network of participants, some of whom have faced hate crime charges. Last month, Jose Gomez III, 21, of Midland, Texas, pleaded guilty in federal court to 3 counts of committing a hate crime for attacking an Asian American family, including 2 children he believed to be responsible for the pandemic. In 2018, Alex Michael Ramos, a Puerto Rican resident of Georgia, was sentenced by a Virginia district court to 6 years in prison for his role in a beating of a black man in Charlottesville, Virginia, following the Unite to Right rally. Christopher Ray Monzon, a Cuban-American man and member of the neo-Confederate group League of the South. Let me repeat this. A Cuban-American man who is a member of the neo-Confederate. First of all, why is there anything Confederate still in this country of people who believe that they are staunch patriots? But I digress. Was arrested in 2017 for attempting to assault anti-racist protesters in Hollywood, Florida. He later resigned from the group and said he regretted using slurs for Black and Jewish people. Not he regretted his actions, not he changed his views, not he learned anything. He regretted using the slurs. And that regret, I bet my bottom dollar, is just because he had to let go of the title and the power he had from the position within that organization. Context. At the conference in Orlando, which made headlines because U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, accepted an invitation to speak, Fuentes drew attention for comments of his own. And I quote, "And now they're going on about Russia and Vladimir Putin is Hitler. They say that's not a good thing." He then laughed and said, "I shouldn't have said that." And these are people that don't realize they too would have been on the chopping block. They too would have been on the chopping block. Because the white people who hold steadfast to Hitler and his doctrine, because Hitler was a great Svengali, his brown-haired, brown-eyed self convinced people that the master race was blonde-haired, blue eyes, the indicators of incest, and he wasn't. You think box-collar Barbie, aka Marjorie Taylor Greene, or quarter Mexican Fuentes would have made... Let's carry on. Fuentes has questioned the Holocaust, criticized interracial marriage. His parents were interracial. You know, the assessment of white mothers of biracial, inter or intra-racial children still stand it. And defended Jim Crow era segregation. The ADL describes him as a white supremacist leader and podcaster who seeks to forge a white nationalist alternative to the mainstream GOP. There's no alternative. That's who the GOP is. Can we stop, for the love of all things holy, can we stop giving excuses to the party of racism, to the parties of racism? Because once again, there's more than two parties within the United States. We just have a majoritively two-party system in a country that was never supposed to have political parties. But continuing, Tarrio, 38, has previously faced charges. He was sentenced to 5 months in jail for setting fire to a Black Lives Matter banner stolen from a historic Black church in Washington, D.C. Can you not snore in the middle of the podcast? Rude. Absolutely rude. And first of all, to steal from a church, I don't care if you're a believer or not. Like, I am not Jewish. I first of all, I wouldn't steal from nobody. But even if times got super, super hard, I'm not going to steal from a temple, a synagogue, a mosque. Like, come on. You got to have some couth. And then I quote, "I'm pretty brown. I'm Cuban. There's nothing white supremacist about me," Tarrio told Insider in 2020. Isn't it amazing that these people who have internalized racism and internalized white supremacy because of their adjacency to the complexion for protection always want to lean back and lean into their brownness to escape accountability? Sounds about white. Let's continue. But Tarrio was suspended from Twitter in 2019 for posting anti-immigrant threats, has denigrated transgender people, and has used racist language to describe a Black actor. But there are limits to how accepted some far-right Latino activists can become in white supremacist and neo-Nazi circles. Mark Pikovich, a senior research fellow at the ADL Center on Extremism, told Axios, "Some extremists on 4chan and 8chan say Fuentes' Latino heritage disqualifies him from speaking on white supremacy." Pitkovich said, "Meanwhile, some white supremacist elements of the Proud Boys dismiss Tarrio as a leader, but so far he has withstood the criticism," said Pitkovich, who monitors the chats. Let me throw into the conversation, I just had his name. The guy from Fit and Fresh. I can't think of his name right now, but he keeps going into white supremacist spaces and they're telling him to his face, "We don't want you here. You're a great mouthpiece for us on that side, but don't come into our spaces. Don't think that you're buddy-buddy with us. You can spew all that you want. You can learn all the 1488 that your heart desires. You can memorize all the tenets of white supremacy and spew it as if it is your first language. You are still not them. Let me remind you, you think that you're vying for a seat at the table, baby, they will turn you into the cushions for the seats. You will be the meal served on the table. You will be the token spent, and they won't pick up the change, nor will they pick up a receipt. Tarrio's lawyer, Lucas Dancy, did not respond to email seeking comment. Fuentes American First Foundation also did not respond to requests for comment. What we're watching, U.S. Latinos identifying as multiracial soared during the last decade, while those identifying solely white dropped significantly, according to the latest census. And some people go, "Well, Taj, you just talked about them internalizing white supremacy." Yes, they do. But here's the thing. Just like white people who historically joined the $5 Indian roll, they want the benefits put in place to try to provide equity and equality. They want to keep it from those who actually need it and deserve it, and they want to consume it. That is a part of white supremacy. They know they can't compare. They know they can't compete. When somebody has internalized racism, internalized white supremacy, they pick up the patterns, the verbiage, the workings of their massa because they believe that that's the right way to be. Now, there has been quite the conversation because some people have been scratching their head like, how do certain people decide to vote this way, decide to vote that way, with all the information that is out there, with the ability at your fingertips to get information, with the ability to ask people questions and get answers in real time, with, C-SPAN and all of these networks where you can see the government at work and get your questions answered and learn how things go. How do people keep falling short when it comes to edification, when it comes to government in the United States? Well, as always, I found an example for y'all. Clutch your pearls. Please don't be drinking or anything. Keep all your hands inside the ride at this time. And here you go.
I voted for Stein.
Okay.
So what was the single most important issue to you in this election?
Honestly, I take like a quiz online and it goes through all the values that aligns with me, and then it tells me like who I align most with. So it said that I was aligned with Stein. I usually just go through it and skim it, but not too much. But one of my main things with this election probably was just women's choice.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So
Your main issue was women's choice and women's rights. So you decided not to research for yourself. And before you all get your undergarments all twisted and blame all social media as a whole, pump your brakes. That is a Facebook problem. That is a Facebook echo chamber problem. Facebook is the originator and the propagator and the pusher of these fucking quizzes and find out what type of person you are. What is your aura? What should you do as a career? And people really buy into it. And before you start judging those people, back it up. Y'all the same ones that was calling the psychic hotlines. And before that, y'all was the ones begging your parents to buy you the Magic 8-Ball. Y'all was the same ones that watched the movie Big and was looking for the fortune teller machine every time you went to a carnival, a fair, or an amusement park. And here we are. People not edifying themselves and going, I could just take an online quiz and it'll just tell me everything about myself. These are the same people that can't figure out why relationships don't work for them because they're either going by a picture going, smash, marry, kill, fuck. Yeah, here's a picture. Would you marry this person? Y'all waited y'all whole lives to become fucking adults. But you still kept the mindset of a goddamn toddler. Aren't you proud? Aren't you proud? You say that issues matter to you, but you don't research it. You report people who are trying to give you the pertinent information because you think if that one person or those 5 people that you saw go away, that you can bury your head in the sand and nobody else will know. Because, getting them banned shuts down the whole World Wide Web. But y'all will spend 20 hours a day and night researching somebody you ain't seen, kissed or been in their presence for since you dated them in the 5th fucking grade to find out who they fucking around with today. You willing to help your bestie track down somebody that they emotionally, financially, and physically abused 3 years ago to see what they got going on. You pissed off at your neighbor 2 doors down, so you will do your damnedest to find out where they work to get them fucking fired. And none of that will affect your life negatively, positively, or indifferently. But the shit that actually will affect you, you won't even take 2 seconds to look into. Make that shit make sense to me. Y'all would rather be nosy and messy than productive for yourself. As long as you have the feeling that you did something better than somebody else, that's good enough for y'all. Fuck actually surviving and thriving. You would rather get up every day and fight your whole life for your family to go into debt just to bury you. That what in your legacy has the most value is your free social media account that's not even monetized. Lord Jesus, help them. Jesus Christ on a motorbike. But you like it, I love it. Shit, you know. Y'all want to charge y'all kids $2,000 a month in rent, but you're fucking a hobosexual for free because they got a waterfall or a big dick. I can't. I ain't got no good damn sense. But, in all seriousness, moral authority doesn't pay your bills. And everybody does not quantify everything on the same moral scale. So what you think is a win may not be a win. And also keep in mind, you're only window shopping somebody else's life. And the display in the window always looks much, much better than after you done made the purchase and took it home and put it on yourself. Because you could see somebody and they look amazing in that outfit, but you put it on and you look like shit because it wasn't meant for you. But what is meant for you in these United States that touts freedoms all the time is the freedom to choose. So choose to do better and be better. And as always, thank you for joining me here. As always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Go out and get into some good trouble or some bad trouble. Just don't ask me for bail money. All right? All right.